Welcome back to the Humble Market Timer YouTube channel. Once again, if you enjoy the content, please like, comment, and subscribe. In today's video, I want to talk about silver. Was I one of the few people who actually predicted when silver topped? Before I go any further, please check the description for my disclaimer. Once again, these are my sole ideas, not investment advice. Now, I have always been of the belief that silver would top, and whenever silver would top, it would correspond to levels on the gold and silver ratio. We were in a blue sky breakout with silver, and in those blue sky breakouts, it's hard to determine tops, but I was always of the belief that the gold and silver ratio chart would determine when silver would top. And I did this video right here about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And in that video, the video when I said when silver will likely top, I did a breakdown of when exactly I thought silver would top. And I want to show just a clip of that video. And we're going to check to see if I was accurate in my suggestion. Here we go. To see that this line, when we have a break of the parallel, how it is also trending right back to where this line is connecting. So we have two areas of confluence, which is saying that this area right here, let me move this over just a little bit. This area right here is potentially a key area for when we will have a potential bottom in the gold and silver ratio. Again, we have this line as one line is hitting that area, and then this line right here is hitting that exact same area, and it looks like that area, we could be hitting that area in the next month, 2 months, maximum 3 months, if this break of the parallel, the original parallel, if it continues to accelerate lower. And at that particular point, the gold to silver ratio, which is currently at about 73 right now, it's saying that at about 58 to 59, that will be where the gold and silver ratio has its bottom. And at that point, once the gold and silver ratio hits 58, 59, right in this area right here, you need to then look and see what the price of silver is. And at that point, I suspect that will be the top of silver. So I suspected that the gold and silver ratio hitting at about 58 would represent the top of silver. Let's look at the gold and silver ratio right now. This is the daily chart of the gold and silver ratio currently. As you can see on the previous trading day, we hit that 58 area. We dipped actually all the way down to 54 on the next day, but look at how we are bouncing off that same exact area that I pointed out that would potentially be the top of silver. You see the green candle here on the gold and silver ratio. We bounced all the way from 54. We're now at 60. Now let's look at the price of silver. You can see here, look at the downward action. We initially made a push all the way to about 83, 84 when silver first opened on Sunday night. And look at the downward action that we are now seeing in silver. And so it looks like that $83 to $84 range might have been, at least in the short term, the top for silver. And it also shows how the gold and silver ratio almost exactly pinpointed when silver would top. So I was pretty accurate in my assessment on when silver topped. Now that we are getting that pullback in silver, and let's be fair, it was much overdue. It was overbought. It needed a pullback so that it could maintain a healthy chart. So we could expect that the pullback was going to occur, but what we didn't know was exactly when it would occur. So you always got to keep an eye on the gold and silver ratio. In my opinion, I think that is the key chart moving forward in determining where silver goes and how high it goes. But now just looking at silver, we see now that we have since we have what appears to be a top, we can now have some pretty defined technical analysis and chart analysis that we can look at now based on that action. As you see here, I drew a parallel that it looks like we were trading in since about June, and it looks like we've been in this uptrend. You can see we were hovering right around that midpoint area, and the moment we broke out of the midpoint, look at how we shot all the way to the top of that parallel. If you notice here, I drew this line. You can see we were trading in this long-term parallel here in silver. We broke out of it. You see we had a bit of a move here. If you stretch that line all the way to where we topped, you are now seeing, in my opinion, a nice resistance line for silver. So now we actually have some things to work with in silver moving forward, just actually looking at the silver chart and not just having to look at other charts. So I think we're going to see this line here act as an area of resistance, and we're going to see this parallel here in the uptrending parallel, this top line, act as a resistance in silver. So what the things that you want to see moving forward, you want to see silver cool off a little bit. Ideally, you always want to see consolidation and not just as much a massive yank. So the yank is pretty good right now. I think this looks like we're down about 10%, which is a pretty big drop. But again, silver has made a massive move. But ideally, you would like to see some consolidation. This is a weekly chart, but you'd like to see some consolidation here so it moves more horizontally, not as much down. But you can see that we have retraced back to the midpoint of this uptrending parallel. A very good spot for there to actually be some buyer step in. So keep an eye on this midpoint. If that midpoint doesn't hold, you can look for it to retrace all the way back down to the lower portion of that parallel. But these are now the guidelines that we have for silver. We're no longer in that blue sky breakout. We now are looking at some candles that we have to work with. I think the gold and silver ratio will still be a key chart to look at moving forward, but we now have some guidelines in just the silver chart to see where silver goes moving forward. I'll do another video later where we'll look at where silver can go if we can break some of these now current resistances and support levels that we have now. Hope you like the content. If you like it, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.